This is not to condemn you, but let me tell you the truth. There is still a lot of work to be done in us. Ephesians chapter 3 from verse 19 and 20. Please give it to us. We have to pray. To know the love of Christ which surpasses all knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God. Next verse. It says, now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think. Please finish the last line for me. According to what? So those possibilities are limited to the degree of his power that flows in us. Now, when you go through that inner work of transformation, I'm saying this because some of you, that is the season where you are. How I know is because God left you alone. He took everybody away from you. Transformation and training is not done in the crowd. He will isolate you. There are things he will teach you and only you will understand. It's your covenant with him. When that happens, ladies and gentlemen, at that point you are ready to be a witness. Then John 7:39 now happens. You are filled. When you are filled, and you see, the fullness of Christ involves 3 dimensions of him. Maybe I should say that quickly. When the Bible talks about the fullness of Christ, there is a theological explanation. Number 1, the nature of Christ, his character. Number 2, the wisdom of Christ. Number 3, the power of Christ. So every time you talk about the fullness of Christ, your mind should go to these 3 dimensions. Number 1, the nature, the character of Christ, the fruit of the Spirit. Number 2, the wisdom of Christ. Are we together now? What the Bible calls the mind of Christ. And then number 3, the works of Christ. Anybody who walks in these 3 dimensions is operating in the fullness of Christ. You can walk in the power of Christ and not the nature of Christ. Something will be wrong with that presentation. You can walk in the wisdom of Christ and not walk in the power of Christ. You can walk in the nature of Christ and not walk in the power of Christ. But God desires witnesses who operate this 3-fold dimension. And every problem you see in the church through history is because one dimension was ignored, or one dimension, we call it different names. I'm not speaking in a pastor's conference, but go and trace through Bible history. Every time God was misrepresented, one of these 3 components was found wanting. Either someone emphasized his wisdom at the expense of his nature, no character, or someone emphasized his nature and there was no power to validate his presence, or someone contended for power and there was no wisdom to guide the administration of that power. Maybe this is a sermon for someone. Go back and teach your people that the fullness of Christ is a representation, a wholesome representation of his nature, his wisdom, and his power. Let's say it together: his nature, his wisdom. Show me a believer who is trained by the Spirit to capture this. I show you a mighty tool, a mighty end time tool. And I believe this is what God is doing even with conferences like this. This is what God is doing through several vessels. Many of you here, he is granting grace. There are people who have been greatly aligned along the area of his nature, others his wisdom, others his power. But what God is doing is he's bringing a synergy. You can't say I understand his nature, that means I stay there. You will have great people with character, but they will die of sickness. They will not go forward, they will not advance. Albeit you will see holiness and righteousness and purity. Then there are others, you will see wisdom. CEOs will come out, professionals, intellectuals, but spiritually speaking, one yoke from darkness will bring them down, bring the business down. Because it says, say unto God, how terrible art thou in thy works, it is through the greatness of thy power. Wisdom builds, power retains. So if the only thing you have to build is wisdom, retainership is not there, there will not be longevity of impact. Are we learning? Let me tell you the truth. You can test your training with the Holy Spirit by checking these 3 indices I just mentioned. That's how you know it is God training you or it's a familiar spirit. If it is another spirit training you, and I'm not being sarcastic, you will never find this tripartite formation. Only the Spirit of God has capacity to build a believer in a wholesome way that captures character, the nature of Christ, the wisdom of Christ. I say this with all due respect. If you are a servant of the living God here, may God grant us greater grace to be able to communicate this threefold dimension, because our members will be a reflection of the degree or otherwise of our communicating this area. None of these 3 should be emphasized above another. This is the threefold cord that cannot be easily broken. The nature of Christ, the wisdom of Christ, the character of Christ.